Hello, everyone. Welcome to my NBA mock draft. Let's get into it. So, at the number one pick, I have the Detroit Pistons selecting Cade Cunningham. This is, if you look at other NBA mock drafts, you'll definitely see Cade Cunningham going number one. Detroit might try and move on from this pick, so that's the only way that Detroit might not get Cade. He's a 6'8" point guard from Oklahoma State. He's 19 years old and he's 220 pounds. Last year, he averaged 20 points per game with 6 rebounds and 3.5 assists. The only problem with Cade Cunningham is sometimes he's a little lazy with his passing, and he has a big turnover ratio, which he might have to work on in the NBA. But if you watch film of his, he looks very mature for his age and could definitely come into the NBA and contribute to your team right away. So for the second pick, I have the Houston Rockets selecting Jalen Green. Jalen Green is a 6'5", 180-pound shooting guard from the G League team Ignite. Ignite was basically a team for high school players going into college that didn't want to play in college, so instead they made a G League team, which is basically the NBA's second team, or second league. They made a team called Ignite, coached by Brian Shaw, and Jalen Green was the star of that team. He's very young, 19 years old, and averaged 18 points per game with 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Jalen Green's is going to have to grow his body. Being 180 pounds in the league you're going to get pushed around, so he's going to have to get stronger. But being on the Rockets are in rebuilding mode, and Kevin Porter Jr. did very well last season, and you still have John Wall and Christian Wood. There are many ways that Houston could go here. They could try and trade back. They could try and pick Jalen Suggs or Evan Mobley. But I think Jalen Green's the best overall prospect here and could help your team with maybe a John Wall and Jalen Green backcourt, or even Kevin Porter and Jalen Green to go into the future. And I think that's the pick there. Now I get to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I have them selecting Evan Mobley. He's a 7-foot center from USC. He's 215 pounds and is 20 years old. Last year he averaged 16 points per game with 9 rebounds and 2.5 assists. Evan Mobley is a great prospect. I think for his height, he can stretch the floor like someone that is 5 inches shorter than him. He needs to work on his shot a little bit if he wants to be a Joel Embiid kind of player. But otherwise, I think he could definitely go number 2 to the Rockets, but I have the Cleveland Cavaliers selecting him here because I like Jalen Green more as a prospect, but Evan Mobley could definitely later, in like maybe 5 years later, could definitely be a better selection than Jalen Green. And for the Cleveland Cavaliers, having him and Jared Allen in your front court would be a very scary team to go against. You're going to get rid of Colin Sexton in a trade somehow, so Cleveland Cavaliers are one of these teams that might want to trade up for that number 1 selection and Cade Cunningham. Now I get to the 4th overall selection, which is the Toronto Raptors. They have a very young team, but also have been at the center of a lot of trades with Pascal Siakam. But you have a young team with Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby. You have Chris Boucher, but you need a replacement for Kyle Lowry, and I think Jalen Suggs is your guy. He's 6'4", 205 pounds from Gonzaga. He's a point guard, shooting guard, and he's 20 years old, so he's a little older than the likes of Jalen Green. But I think it's also very possible that Jalen Green could possibly fall here, but I think if Jalen Green does not fall, Jalen Suggs is good. He's a very consistent guy and has a very good personality. Last year he averaged 14 points per game with 5 rebounds and 4.5 assists. He moves the ball around very well, and is not super ball dominant. If you're a UCLA fan out there, you'll definitely know this guy's name because he ended that March Madness with a half-court shot. But Jalen Suggs is a very good prospect, and I have him going number 4. Now I get to number 5, where things are still kind of consistent. I think there's very concrete. You know who's going 1 to 5. The order from 2 to 5 might switch up a little bit. Like Scotty Barnes could definitely go 4 to the Raptors because he's such an athletic prospect. So Scotty Barnes is a 6'8", small forward, power forward from Florida State. He's very young, 19 years old, and is 225 pounds. So he's built to be in the NBA, and I think that he could be a Ben Simmons-like player, which is actually kind of true because he struggled with his shot last season. His shot was very inconsistent, and he is like a point guard. He likes to take control of the offense and move the ball around. So I think having Scotty Barnes as a point guard for Orlando would be a little bad because you have Markelle Fultz and Scotty Barnes, 2 people that can't shoot. But I think Scotty Barnes can improve his shot because he is so young and athletic that he can improve his shot. And then you have a starting point guard that can stretch the floor. Now I get to 6, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have recently become a tanking team and really want that number 1 pick. They're another team that have been wanting to trade up. They have picks 6, 16, and 18, and they have over 15 first-round picks in the next 6 or 7 years. So they're definitely planning for the future. I have them picking Jonathan Kuminga. He is a 6'8", 210-pound small forward from the G League team Ignite. He's only 18 years old, very, very young. He turns 19, I believe, in the middle of October. He's a very young guy. He has been starting to fall from this pick because of his youth, and people think he won't be able to develop into a very good player. So he's one of the first guys that he has a very high ceiling, which means he can be very good, but he has a very low floor, which means if he doesn't get the right development, he can end up not being a great player. For the G League team Ignite, last year he averaged 16 points per game with 7 rebounds and 3 assists. And I think he's very impressive and just needs to improve his game a little bit. At 7, I have the Golden State Warriors selecting Josh Giddey. So Golden State has the Timberwolves pick right here, and they have 7 and 14. I have them selecting Josh Giddey. He's a 6'7" point guard from Australia. He played on the Adelaide 76ers last year. And for the 76ers in Australia, he averaged 11 points per game with 7.5 rebounds and 7.5 assists. I compare him to a Lonzo Ball, maybe a taller LaMelo Ball-like player. He is also 18 years old, so very young. And I think the Warriors do need a backup point guard that can help Steph. But there are so many other people that could go here. A lot of people have Davion Mitchell, which could definitely happen. And there's also, this pick might be on the move, but I think that Josh Giddey, being the athletic guy he is and playmaking, he's a very good player. But definitely this pick could go somewhere else. Then we get to 8, which is Orlando's second pick of the draft. I have them picking James Bouknight from UConn. So Orlando has 2 picks. They got this pick in the Nikola Vucevic trade. And I have them selecting Bouknight. He's a shooting guard, 6'5", 190 pounds. He's 20 years old. He was very impressive at college, but as a shooting guard, his shot was not very good. But recently at a pro day, he really shot the lights out, which impressed a lot of scouts and teams. But I'm a strong believer that a pro day doesn't show how good you can shoot because you can practice that 100 times and it can be muscle memory for you that you could do easily, but you need to shoot well in game. But last year he averaged 19 points per game with 6 rebounds and 2 assists. Recently, the Oklahoma City Thunder have seemed to really like him, so he might go 6 to the Thunder, but he might fall very far. So I think 8 to the Magic is good because he's someone who can also help their backcourt. But if you're thinking about it, Orlando's backcourt now is very stuffed. You also have Cole Anthony from last year. You have R.J. Hampton and Markelle Fultz. You have a lot of people in that backcourt. So you need to start, if I'm thinking for the future, you need to start getting some forwards. And also in this draft, I have them picking Scotty Barnes. So getting all those people in the backcourt, you might have to try and do something different. Now I get to 9, which is the Sacramento Kings. I have them selecting Franz Wagner from Michigan. He's a 6'9", 220-pound small forward. He's 19 years old. So you might recognize the name. He is Mo Wagner's younger brother. At Michigan, he did very, very well. And I think if he falls here to Sacramento, which I'm very assured that he will, it's going to be very difficult for Sacramento to pass him up. He's a very good player. He's 19 years old. He still has a lot to develop. He's a great learner, has a great personality. Last year, he averaged 12 and a half. He had 12 and a half points per game last season with 6.5 rebounds and 3 assists. I think if I'm the Kings, I want to move on from Marvin Bagley because his injury problems have been really annoying. But you have a young core of De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, but they seem like a team that might be looking to trade away and try and start new. And I've seen them rumored with Ben Simmons trading Buddy Hield away. So he might be the start for a young core that you can start to build again. And then we get to the final pick, which is the New Orleans Pelicans selecting Davion Mitchell. He's a 6', 205-pound point guard from Baylor. He is one of the oldest people that I've talked about. He turns 23 on September 5th, I believe. So he is a little older, but that means he is more mature and he knows his position in the league. So he is definitely going to be a valuable point guard for New Orleans if they pick him, but he could definitely go 7 to the Warriors or go even later or go even 14 to the Warriors. He was very good at Baylor. He's a very good defender. He mostly does defending. He won the SEC Defensive Player of the Year last season, which I believe. So I think if he's picked by New Orleans, he's also a playmaker. So I think Zion will like to play with him because you can do a pick and roll, and he's also very athletic and has a lot of energy, which I think Zion will very much enjoy. And last year, he averaged 14 points per game with 3 rebounds and 5.5 assists. And I think that he and Zion will mesh together very well, which will keep Zion from moving on from New Orleans, which is the one thing that New Orleans fans definitely do not want their star player leaving them. Thanks for listening to the show. I'll be back next week talking about the draft results. Thank you.